Hello everybody, it's Daniel here, bringing you a Team Fortress 2 gameplay commentary. So, thanks to a dear friend of mine, I actually have access to the competitive matchmaking beta, and I've been able to try it out. So, because a lot of people haven't actually seen that yet, or don't have access to it, I thought I'd talk about it a bit. Now, full-on disclaimer, right at the start of this, I don't play competitive TF2, at all. I really, really don't. I'm for life have been a pub player. So bear that in mind. But mainly the perspectives I want to talk about it is just some of the interesting things that competitive presents to the game. And it's the sort of stuff that will kind of have a bit of impact on pubs. And it's the sort of stuff you can talk about for competitive just as a scene, really, and not so much being involved with the details within it. It's a couple of things I noticed, just from playing the first couple of games. The gameplay here, actually, by the way, this was my first round I had for playing competitive. I jumped in with heavy. The reason being that I was thinking, heavy, I don't need to know too many technical things to be able to contribute to my team. So that was pretty much my logic there. But the couple of things I've noticed from going in, there's been issues with hacking and competitive. And that's been something that's been going on for a while. It's getting cracked down a bit on now, which is really, really good because it's competitive and it has more hackers than basically your average pubs. For some reason, VAC wasn't working for a while. I don't know what the story is with that now, but it's kind of getting under control. There's issues with custom heads-up displays as well that are not being optimized for competitive. That actually cause the client to crash for other people. The match will not start until you get that sorted. So that's a bit of an issue as well for anyone who's using them. Thankfully for me, actually, the Tune heads-up display, the one I've started using recently, that's okay. And you may spot in this video, actually, this was recorded a while back. That's the reason it's not there in this one. So there's a bit of an issue there. But more than anything, the issue I actually notice is that there's long wait times to actually start the game. You're sitting around waiting for things to happen an awful lot, because you have to queue like you would for MVM, first of all. Then you get into the match, and then you gotta wait for people to actually kind of connect to the server, and it's about a 150 second period. You all have to ready up, and then you wait again, another 30 seconds on top of that. It's all in all, between games, you're looking at about 5 minutes of wait time. And I know it doesn't sound like much, but the idea is that when this is competitive, when this is sort of you click a button in the client and you can play competitive TF2 in an instant, as you can with something like a regular pub, it should be a lot faster. Because the idea is that this is a streamlined sort of competitive format. We have so many community competitive organizations that already operate. If you're having something that's in-game like this, then it really should just be faster. You shouldn't be sitting around. I should click a button and be in a competitive game. Have it like League of Legends, which I think is actually a good comparison just for in-game competitive like that. But have it so you just click and queue and there you go. Here's your game, you're good to go. It's nice to have several things the ability to build a party and how they'll join you up with other people, regardless of the amount of people that you actually have in your party. If you and a friend just want to play, then it's you're kind of okay. You can hop in, 4 random people will join. But some of the things just need to be a little faster like that. It just feels a little slow. And it's you just notice it between playing a couple of matches, the fact that you always have to queue so much. Because the games themselves don't always last that long. This is edited down footage, of course. But this game overall only lasted about 12 minutes. So if you think about a 5-minute wait time just to do that, it's really not great. So that's something that kind of needs to be streamlined, I'd say. And here's something else that's perhaps the biggest issue I'd say with competitive at the moment. It's the fact that people may not care a month from now. And I've started to see this already. A lot of people who have had access to this for the longest while now have said that they don't really care as much now. People are just losing interest. And it's mainly because a lot of the issues are just kind of going on a bit, and things aren't being fixed quickly, really. It's been kind of slow. And there's not much excitement to it as well, because basically it's just random beta passes just kind of being given out. There's no real build-up for it, and there doesn't need to be much of a scene actually developing for, in-client TF2 like this. Because if you actually want to, play competitive properly like that, you pretty much have to build a party as is. And if you go through that effort, then you might as well register as an official team, because you're going to get so much better recognition if you do something like that, rather than just kind of queue for the little client-based thing that they have in TF2 right now. Again, that's the sort of thing that they need to change. They actually need to publicize that a little, rather than just go, it's psst, by the way, here's a beta pass. It's you're keeping it so quiet that there is no scene almost developing it behind it because of that. If you look at Highlander tournaments and that, you actually get really good turnouts for those, and a lot of people watch them when they air on Twitch. I don't see how they're going to do this for in-client stuff though, because they're just not talking about it at all. it's like Valve is trying to promote like a private exclusive party by just not talking about it and keeping everything hush-hush, but truth be told, from people who are actually at the party, it's quite disappointing. Now, I don't think that says anything about competitive itself, because, like, it is a fun game mode to play. Like, it's not for me. I will admit that straight up. I am not a competitive person when it comes to TF2. But you're going to have a lot more people interested if you actually properly promote this, and it just doesn't seem to really be happening. Like, if you compare it to a game like Overwatch, I know we're all sick of this comparison at this stage, but look at the interest that game has. Like, look how excited people are. Every time there's like a closed beta weekend for that, like people are diving in swarms. Like it's front page of Twitch every single time. Why doesn't TF2 have something near as close to that? Because it's really, really sad. Like there's just not near as much excitement. And that is another thing for competitive as well. You do actually have to compete against Overwatch, which is gearing up to be a very competitive game by the looks of it. Like people are interested in that scene. People are like analyzing it already, trying to figure out what will and what won't work from like competitive, like sort of like stress tests, basically. So TF2 really just needs to kind of up its game in that way. But again, it's like it's not the fault of the game itself. It's more so a fault of actually properly promoting it, I would say. Is like if you think about it like this is something that people have been asking for years to actually have in game. It's like competitive in-client TF2. Like that would be so cool. Like even in like summer of 2014, like I remember hearing about this all the time. Now it's actually happening, but it's being released so slowly that people are just kind of like accepting it. Like, there's no hype to it, and again, that's not an indication of how good the game mode is, but you kind of need that hype going into it, especially if you're trying to start, like, a scene in that way. Like, you're trying to do a specific thing here with competitive, and it's already been done by the community to a degree, so maybe that kind of lessens that excitement, but you really need to, like, kind of do your best with it. Like, if it was up to me, then, like, this is the sort of thing where it's, like, you announce it, and then like 2 months down the line, you're looking for a full release, basically, and you have like kind of regular sort of like beta tests, regular stress tests with servers, and just really go for it. They probably announced it just too far in advance. Like it's a good comparison for this is some of the other beta game modes that we've had for TF2 that just basically had the interest sort of dwindle down ever so slowly, and it was never really the fault of the individual game modes, but it just got to the stage where it's like manpower modes development went on way too long that most people just don't care now. Pastime is like ancient now, like you don't hear it mentioned even anymore. Robot destruction is gone and buried. I don't want like matchmaking to go that way, and I don't think it's going to go that way just because it is competitive TF2. Like this is something people have shown that they already play, but if you want, you just need to build a bit more excitement for it. Like don't just have like a really quiet release for this. Build some goddamn hype. So let's have a different note just to end things on, and this is something that I was actually discussing with everyone who was watching me on Twitch just the other night, which, by the way, if you don't do that, twitch.tv/RTGame crowd, streaming TF2 and Hearthstone. But we were talking about how weapon bans might actually work in competitive, or if they're actually going to happen, because if you think about it for community competitive at the moment, there are loads of weapon bans, and they're for weapons that you might think are balanced in pubs and that, but for competitive they're just kind of completely thrown out. Like the Vita Saw, I think, is a great example for that, because Ubers are a lot more significant when it comes to competitive play, so ability to actually retain some of that charge is a big deal. So how's that going to work? It's like, because Valve has the power just to balance these weapons themselves, and they've been doing that a lot more in recent years. Like, we've kind of viewed that as the build-up to it. But are we still going to have weapon bans? I think that's a very interesting question. There's a lot of weapons that would need some very significant changes to be allowed, as judged by the community. Like, for instance, the Criticola is one that's always been banned. So how would you change that for a competitive environment? I really don't know, but I think it's very interesting. I'll put a link in the description to the complete ban list, just a page from the wiki, basically. But I do think it's just a very interesting thing to consider, because like Valve does have that power just to change things if they think it's a bit imbalanced, so who knows how that's going to work out. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy the thoughts on competitive from the perspective of a pubber as well. Please bear that in mind. But I will see you all with something new soon. Goodbye, and thank you so much for watching.